From the icy lands of the north to Africa to America, men with bloody axes and tattooed bodies set out on their journey to Odin's Valhalla. Brave men of blood and soil, drink and women, adventure and wealth, a wild people who carved their names into centuries. Heads were cut off, legs were broken, and unforgettable vengeance was taken, because they were the Vikings. But don't be mistaken, this story is not just theirs. It is yours. It is all of ours. Are you ready to travel 1,200 years into the past? Then gather your courage, because this journey is not for the faint-hearted. We begin. On April 30th, 790, Yard 3, in Scandinavia, life in a small Viking village went on as usual. People worked hard to survive. Norway, Sweden, and Denmark were home to small tribes sharing a common culture. But that same year, one Viking group crossed the sea and attacked Lindisfarne Monastery in England. This bloody raid went down in world history. Though there had been earlier raids, this one was shocking because it targeted a holy monastery. Christian Europeans were horrified, calling the Vikings God's punishment. And the Vikings themselves knew this was only the beginning. Who were these men? What were their goals? And how did they change the world? To answer this, we must first understand Viking society and the myths that shaped them. In the beginning, there was a great void, where the realms of fire and ice collided. From this clash came forth a giant named Ymir, a being both male and female capable of creating life. He drank the milk of a primeval cow, which licked salty ice blocks, until another god, Buri, emerged. From Buri's line came three gods, Odin and his brothers. They killed Ymir, turning his blood into oceans, his hair into forests, his brain into clouds, and his bones into the sky. From this act, the world was born. Even the days of the week carry their names: Wednesday for Odin, Thursday for Thor, Friday for Freya. At the top of Viking society were nobles called Jarls. Below them were the free men, the backbone of Viking life. Decisions were made collectively. Jarls and free men gathered, reached agreements, and no man could be forced into war. Instead, they were persuaded with promises of drink, feasts, and loot. The Vikings were heavy drinkers, so much so that Arab traveler Ibn Fadlan wrote, "I have never seen more perfect physiques, tall, white-skinned, like palm trees. But they are also the filthiest of God's creatures. They drink day and night, commit open adultery, and behave like wild donkeys." Their passion for drink was so deep that even their vision of paradise, Valhalla, was an eternal feast of drinking, dueling, and songs, reserved only for warriors who died in battle. Those who died peacefully in bed went instead to a cold, dark afterlife. This belief fueled their lust for war. A quarter of Viking society was made up of slaves, captured in raids and traded across a network that stretched as far as Baghdad. Slaves worked fields, tended animals, and lived in harsh conditions. Managing these slaves was the duty of Viking women, who often had surprising rights compared to the rest of Europe. Viking women could divorce their husbands, inherit property, and sometimes even fight as warriors. Priestesses often oversaw sacrifices, including human ones, slaves killed for rituals before battles or funerals. Their ships, called drakars, dragons, were the fastest of their time, able to reach 20 knots. Yet life on them was brutal, open to storms, freezing winds, no toilets, and no compass. Only a crystal called the Sunstone to find their way under cloudy skies. In 860, 200 Viking ships sailed to Constantinople, Istanbul. They burned villages, slaughtered thousands, and struck such terror that even Byzantines called them Rus, a word that gave birth to the name Russia. Yet later relations softened. Vikings traded in the city, enjoyed its baths, and even served as the emperor's Varangian guard. One Viking even carved his name into a stone in Hagia Sophia, still visible today. The Vikings also explored further than anyone. Floki the explorer released 3 ravens into the sky, and by following the last one, discovered Iceland. His descendants reached Greenland, and even set foot in North America, 500 years before Columbus. By the 800s, Viking armies grew into forces of 40 to 50,000 men. In 845, the legendary Ragnar Lodbrok, or his historical counterpart, led thousands up the Seine River, bypassing defenses by dragging their ships over land, and attacked Paris. This very tactic, moving ships over land, was later used by Fatih Sultan Mehmet during the conquest of Istanbul, possibly inspired by both Viking chronicles and earlier Turkish naval leaders. But was Ragnar real? Historians believe Ragnar was not one man, but a legendary figure created by merging the deeds of several Viking leaders. His supposed sons, Björn, Ivar, Ubbe, and Sigurd, were real historical figures, but whether they were truly his children is unknown. The first mention of Ragnar Lodbrok as a single name appears in Icelandic texts written nearly 300 years later. By 1066, after the death of Harald Hardrada in England, the Viking Age was in decline. Christianity spread among them, castles rose across Europe, and the once feared raiders became part of the kingdoms they had invaded. Norman Vikings even built a powerful kingdom in Italy, reshaping Europe before fading into history. Their gods were forgotten, their culture absorbed, and they no longer saw themselves as Norse, but as English, French, Spanish, or Italian. They left behind no empire, only stories. Stories of men and women who lived fiercely, fought fearlessly, and whose names will never be erased. And that is the story of the Vikings.